was that they believed they were doing a bad job or just are not doing their job, period. The second most prevalent response was that Americans believed members were making decisions based on inappropriate or ineffective criteria, which included the perception that elected officials were self-interested, playing partisan politics, or basing decisions on their special interest. The overall perception: they are not working for Americans and the interest of the entire country, according to the poll. Millennials were no exception to the lack of faith Americans were feeling in the system. This certainly was not the time for Washington to be ineffective. However, they were. In a Time magazine article titled, "Student Loans Are Becoming a Drag on the U.S. Economy," it says, student loans are now top 1 trillion and 81% of the most burdened borrowers. Those with more than $40,000 of student debt have private loans with interest rates of 8% or higher, according to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Unlike federal student loans, private loans not only cost more, they offer less repayment flexibility and typically cannot be discharged in bankruptcy. Almost all students' debt is difficult, if not impossible, to refinance, sticking borrowers with high rates in a low-rate environment and adding to the economic drag. To add insult to injury, at a time when financial aid for students was most needed amidst the economic recession, the Tea Party Republicans were trying to do away with two critical elements of the federal government. One, they were trying to reduce funding of the Pell Grant program, which they successfully did by cutting some of Pell Grant. And two, they proposed completely eliminating the Department of Education, the same department where Eric's dad was an official, and the department that administered Pell Grant. According to the Department of Education website, the federal Pell Grant program provides need-based grants to low-income undergraduate and under post-baccalaureate students to promote access to post-secondary education. At a time where America's youth needed to remain competitive in global education, and when the rising cost of debt was burdening middle-class families more than any other segment of their population, the Tea Party's education agenda made them as popular as ugly holiday sweaters. In an ABC News column regarding millennial student loan debt, Adam Lemon said, "Congress needs to step up to the plate and start making millennials' concerns seriously. Because the student debt burden, unlike Reagan's tax cuts, are going to trickle down throughout our economy. As the next generation finds itself unable to afford to buy houses, finance large purchases like new cars, or even just make Black Friday usually black for retailers. If they can't find a job, can't build good credit, can't achieve salary growth, and continue to struggle under a massive debt burden from the second they start their adult lives, they aren't going to push the American economy to new heights, and we're all going to preside over its sputtering."
Center had silver and gold flags waving in the winter wind, a chilly 20-something degrees. I looked up at the beautiful Christmas tree and was dazzled by the holiday spirit that filled Manhattan. It was December 2011, and Eric and I were visiting New York to co-chair the Clinton Foundation Millennial Network event at Terminal 5 at West 56th Street. The purpose of the evening was to engage the next generation of leaders and philanthropists in the work of the Clinton Foundation. Some of our California friends who were transplants in Manhattan joined us for the donor reception that night. We were greeted with an open bar, a buffet of sushi, a guest appearance by comedian Paul Rudd, and entertainment by the band The Fray. President Clinton impressed my young friends and me with his party-themed skills. Shocking. It certainly rivals some of the best college parties we ever attended, despite a beer pong table not being included. A big screen was above the stage featuring the slideshow of all the work foundation with quotes by President Clinton rotating throughout the slideshow. As I was standing in the cocktail line, I read a very important quote by the president that said, "I really believe this generation of young people has more power than any before to make a real difference in our world. Together we can build a future with more partners, fewer enemies, and shared prosperity." As the crowd quieted and the music stopped, Chelsea Clinton came up to the stage and introduced her father, saying he was the biggest source of her inspiration. He certainly was mine as well. President Clinton stepped on the stage and wooed the crowd in the Clinton-esque way that only he could do. And he thanked Paul Rudd, Chelsea, and his new son-in-law, Martin Levesky. He charmingly excused himself for his lengthy remarks by saying, "I know I'm the only thing that's standing between you and the fray, and I'll try to keep it short." President Clinton went on to talk about the mission of his foundation and why he found it important that millennials were getting involved. The Clinton Foundation's mission is to build partnerships with NGOs, businesses, governments, and individuals around key areas which include improving global health, increasing opportunities for women and girls, reducing childhood obesity and preventable diseases, creating economic opportunity and growth, and addressing the effects of climate change. President Clinton housed a special initiative just for young people under his Millennium Network to engage future leaders and philanthropists in his work. With his southern drawl and his ability to reach audience members on a real level, the president spoke to the crowd of young people like an uncle imparting knowledge. When you get older, you don't feel like you're looking into the mirror, but you won't really feel old if you have something to look forward to. And this I do look forward to because it's fun, it's a privilege, and well, it's challenging. Most importantly, I want to figure out how to solve some of these global problems. Non-government groups have big advantages over private sector and government. We don't have quarterly pressure to perform like the private sector. What President Clinton was talking about was the fact that in today's capitalism, the pressure to make profits is the sole purpose of most corporations. His new role in the Clinton Foundation was simply to find solutions and fundraise just enough to get the job done. His focus didn't have to be appeasing voters nor shareholders, things that elected officials and corporations needed to worry about. But what if profit doesn't have to be the only priority of the private enterprise? With so many nonprofit groups and foundations strapped for cash in this long recovery, business could play a role in solving our societal issues too. What if businesses could turn a profit and give back to the world through their companies? Is there any time in history where the societal contributions of a corporation could become equally as important as turning a profit? This might be that time. With millennials more eager to start their own businesses, this could be the generation that requires a business with meaning and contribution.
So this is from the chapter Hawaii 2013, The Experiment. So later that day, I stopped into a used bookstore to see if I could find information about the influence of my heritage in Hawaii. It turned out that the book I picked up, titled Filipinos in Hawaii, highlighted the fact that nearly 1 in 4 persons in Hawaii is of Filipino heritage. Clearly, my experience of seeing Filipino food on the American restaurant menu was a reflection of the influence Filipinos have had on the state. However, there were still some problems plaguing my people. The introduction of the book, entitled The Fiction of the Aloha State, masks the following facts. Despite the material gains that individuals have made and used as measures of success against everyone else, Filipinos, as one of the largest populations on the islands, along with Native Hawaiians and Samoans, were vastly underrepresented in management and professional ranks, while overrepresented in blue-collar sectors of production, transportation, and service industries, as food processors, truck drivers, seamstresses, laborers, retail workers, and hotel staff. I remember the little old woman and the mano, or the old gentleman, from back of house. They were exactly that, back of house. They were the backbone of the restaurants, the hotels, service and agricultural industry, but nowhere to be found in the front of house operations. They were hidden away as line cooks, dishwashers, farm workers, and living off minimum wage. As I explored the book further, it talked of the Filipino influence on the islands. Filipinos have been in Hawaii for more than a century, turning the rough and raw materials of sugar and pineapple into the billion-dollar commodities. This book traces a history from 1946, the last year of the sacadas or plantation workers that were imported, the last year of plantation workers that imported from the Philippines, to the centennial year of their settlement in Hawaii, 1906 to 2006. Filipinos are essential in much that has been built and cherished in this state, including the agricultural industry, tourism, military presence, labor movements, community activism, politics, education, entertainment, and sports. What happened to my people, the Filipinos? And what of the native Hawaiian people? Why were they not making the economic gains of the land they inhabited for centuries? As I read further, the native Hawaiians of the island had endured quite a history. From the colonization of the West to the death of Captain Cook and the overthrow of the last queen of the Hawaiian kingdom, Queen Liliuokalani, the melting pot that is Hawaii today has a key characteristics. Mixed race groups continue to grow in size while the long-standing existence of racial tension still kindles a range of emotions for the citizens of the state. In a book titled Price of Paradise, author Randall W. Ross says of Hawaii, "We are facing social problems created by an economy that employs a large number of less educated immigrants and newcomers in the tourist industry who often work more than one job for wages on the low end of the pay scale. This economic situation leaves a younger generation under-supervised, while parents and older siblings no longer work longer hours to make ends meet." All of this intrigued me. I was in a position as a young Filipino American watching both my generation and those of my heritage face the same problem. They were America's poor. I had never seen it